Hi there, this is Dave Marcus, your Saskatchewan provincial broker, and this is Contracts 101, how to write a removal of conditions. When you've got an offer going and everything's working out and you've got your conditions removed, when you're ready to sign off the paperwork, this is the document that's going to turn your conditional sale into a firm sale. So this is the notice to remove conditions. You'll see the parties, buyers and sellers are up here. Um, we've got the date of the original contract, not the date that you're signing this, and your document number brought over from your original contract, address, legal description from your original contract. So in this particular case, there are four conditions that we had on the offer. And I'm going to go back to my original offer right here. So the original offer said we need financing, we need a gas line locate, we need a home inspection, we need a PCDS, all by the 11th of November. And for my conditions, let's move that out of the way. For my conditions, we've got A, B, C, and D, and there's the four conditions that we had in the offer. There's the four conditions that we are removing. If you look at the terminology on here, you'll notice that I have literally copied and pasted from the other document. These are word for word exactly what the other conditions said is what we are removing. You don't want to change the wording. You want to use the same wording. Now, what we run into sometimes is some agents will add something extra at the bottom. All conditions are now removed, or sale is now firm, or sale may now proceed. Really, those things should not be on there. That's not part of a condition removal. Definitely do not put all conditions are now removed. That could be interpreted the wrong way because other than the conditions that your client has added on there, there's lots of hard typed information in an offer to purchase. You know, you start looking through um, part four, all about the closing, the insurance, the warranties. You don't want to be removing anything that's in the rest of that contract. So the last thing you want to do is write all conditions are removed. Don't do that. Just simply remove the conditions that have been put into the offer. Um, so now if you want to include something like sale is now firm, you can do that. But really, those items shouldn't be there. What should be there is simply the conditions that you are removing is word for word is what belongs in that spot. Now you might run into a situation where you've got an offer where you're removing some conditions now and some conditions later. That's just fine. You can do that. Um, you can have more than one removal of conditions on an offer. That's totally acceptable. Just make sure you are indeed removing them by the date in which they are due to be removed by. So in this case, all of my conditions were due to be removed by December 11th. So this is better be signed by my buyer. We're going to say by December the 10th is when we're going to sign it. So, and make sure you've got all your buyers signing that document. Of course, don't forget that where it says AM, PM, that is going to be the time that the document is actually signed. So now, most removals of conditions, most conditions that are in the offer are going to benefit the buyer. And so generally it's the buyer who is signing this document. However, if you had a deal that had a seller condition on it, let's say when you wrote the deal, the seller countered back and said, subject to them finding a different house to move into. That might be an example of a seller condition. If there are any seller conditions in that offer, make sure that the seller is signing those the removal of conditions. In fact, I've seen some transactions where the buyer submits a removal and the seller submits a removal. That can happen. In those scenarios, whenever there's a seller condition, make sure the seller signs it. And whenever there's a buyer condition, make sure the buyer signs it. Best practice would be to have all parties signing the document. That's going to be best practice because even if they're just buyer conditions, if the seller has signed it, then that's an acknowledgement that the conditions have been removed. You've got a nice clean paper trail and you're not going to run any challenges. So if you're ever working on a deal that you're concerned that you might have an unruly seller, this would be a great example of a document where you'd want to get the sellers to sign that. So that's going to be your best practice is to have all parties sign it. So there you go. That is your removal of conditions.